Hi everybody, my name is Wendy and welcome to my channel, Wendy's Witness. Have you ever wondered if God has something to say to you? And if so, how does He speak? Well, just keep watching and I'll share with you some of my experiences with hearing God's voice. Today, God speaks to us often, but sometimes the problem can be on our end because we're not aware that it's Him. So let's take a look at 1 Samuel chapter 3, starting in verse 4. Then the Lord called Samuel. Samuel answered, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" But Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." So he went and lay down. Again the Lord called, "Samuel." And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" "My son," Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. The Lord called Samuel a third time. And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down. If he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" This story illustrates how we can hear the voice of God and not recognize that it's actually His voice that's speaking to us. And unfortunately, I have to say, I've been there myself before. Samuel mistakenly thought that Eli was calling him when it was the Lord because it sounded like a familiar voice. Sometimes when the Lord speaks, it can sound so familiar that we actually think it's our own voice or our own thoughts. And this is because when we become believers, the Holy Spirit comes to live in us. We are His temple. And when He speaks to our spirit, it's conveyed to our mind. And our mind is a battlefield. And there's a lot of thoughts going on up there. And we have to be able to discern, is it our thought? Is it God's thought? Is it the enemy that's planning a thought? So we have to grow in our spiritual walk. We have to be close to God. We have to know His voice. We have to spend time in the Word. We have to pray to Him regularly. And that way we grow in our faith and we become more aware when He's talking to us that it's Him. God reveals Himself to us in many different ways. In 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 12, it's described as a gentle whisper or a still small voice. And in my experience, that's exactly what it's been like. A small whisper, a gentle whisper, a still small voice, a thought that seems like my own thought. So let me tell you a little about myself, and I'll share with you one of my experiences where I didn't recognize that it was God speaking, and I thought it was my own thought, and I didn't respond and made that mistake, and it really cost me dearly. And I will just go into that a little bit of background. So I want to share a little bit about myself and about what happened to me. So I was about 16 years old when my parents got divorced, and my dad got upset because I went to live with my mom, and we had a little bit of a break in the relationship where we weren't speaking. As a matter of fact, I got married very young. I was 18 and he wasn't at my wedding. Because at that time we still were not speaking. But eventually we reached out, we reconciled. He got remarried, and me and my husband, and at that time we had 2 small young children, we actually moved in with him until we could find a place of our own, and we lived there for a little while. And but our relationship was always kind of characterized by that on again, off again type of thing where, we were speaking, we were not speaking, but never by some huge event that happened, which is very unfortunate. And, you just think in the moment that you've got forever, that you're not, you're young, you're really not worried about it. So, eventually we had another little falling out, it was nothing big, and so we just stopped talking to each other. It was over holiday stuff, just stupid crap. And so I guess just pride, or I really couldn't tell you why we never rekindled our relationship. We never reconciled. And then I heard from my husband's aunt, who went to church with my dad's wife, my stepmom, that my dad was not doing well and had a disease called Lewy body's disease. And I had never even heard of that. And it's basically like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and all kind of stuff just mixed together. It's a really, really sad disease. And so at this time he was already in a nursing home. So I went with my husband and we saw him. He was already bedridden. He was already not really able to speak that well, and couldn't move. But I did know that he knew that I was there, and we were able to ask forgiveness. I was able to tell him that I loved him. He told me he loved me back, and it was just a very healing experience, because we did have that time together before he eventually passed away. But what I wanted to share with y'all, before my dad got sick, God was telling me, he was prompting me to reach out to him. So he told me when his birthday rolled around, get him a card. And it just felt like I was thinking this on my own. It felt like I was saying, you know what, I need to get my dad a card, and I need to mail it to him, and I need to just reach back out to him. It's ridiculous that we're not speaking to each other. So the next holiday, it was Father's Day, then it was his birthday, so it was get a card. I felt the strong prompting to get a card and send it to him. Well, it was so strong that I even went to the store and got a card, and then I never wrote in it and never sent it. So that was God looking back. Obviously that was God telling me that I needed to make amends. I needed to reach out. And if I had done it then, it would have given me more time with my dad when he was still in his right faculties, and it would have been a true treasure, and it would have been really, really good. I'm very thankful for the time that I did have with him, but in that situation, God was telling me to do something, and I halfway didn't know it was him, and halfway just didn't do it, even though I was feeling the urge to do it. So I learned in that situation that the thought that I thought was my own thought was actually God's voice, and he was trying to save me from some of that heartbreak. So just know that if God is talking to you, that sometimes you can actually think that it's just your own voice, but it'll feel more urgent. It'll have a more of a prompting to it. But God's never going to be loud, and it's always going to be a still small voice. It's going to be a inner thing where you're thinking, and like I said, like it's your own thought. So in my experience, I've had that happen, unfortunately, several times. So there's been other times where God has prompted me to do something and I either just did not do it, or it took me a minute to do it. Another example that I have right off the top of my head is that I was in a subway line waiting behind a lady, and I felt like I was supposed to pay for her sandwich. So in that situation, it would have been somewhat embarrassing to just be like, oh, I got this, go ahead, I'll pay for your sandwich as a stranger. So I was like, I know it, I'm not going to do it. I know that it's you, I'm not going to do it. I'm thinking that it's you, but I'm not going to do it. And of course, by that time, with the back and forth in my head I was having, by then the lady's cards declined. And so that gives me the opportunity to say, oh, don't worry about it, just put it on mine, and pay for her sandwich when I pay for mine. So that was another situation where God was trying to tell me to do something and I didn't respond immediately and do what He wanted me to do. And it's just a matter of learning what that sounds like and obeying and responding, so that this is God talking to me. So I want to talk to you a minute about what I've learned through all of this. We can all be healed. We can all move forward into the good plans that God has for us. Guilt and regret are just tools that the enemy uses to keep us stuck and powerless. We can choose to live in the present, forgive ourselves for the past because God already has, and we can know that no matter what mistake we made or whatever we did, that mess, God can take it and make it our message. And don't forget, we are all witnesses.